My name is Jimmy, and I clean the big old school at night when everyone is gone. But this isn't just any school. It used to be Waverly Hills Sanatorium, a place where sick people lived a long time ago. Now it's a middle school, but it still feels different, like it remembers the past. One night, after everyone had left, I was mopping the long, dark hallways. The air was cold, even though the heat was on. The wind outside made strange noises, whispering through the cracks in the windows. It was just me, the sound of my mop, and the quiet buzz of the lights. I was almost done for the night. I walked to the end of the hall to lock the last door when I saw it. A shadow, small, like a child. It ran across the hallway at the very end, just a quick flash of blackness against the dim lights. My heart jumped into my throat. No one was supposed to be here. I froze. My hands clenched the mop handle tight. I had locked all the doors. No one could have gotten in. Hello? My voice shook. No answer. I took slow steps toward the end of the hallway, my ears straining for any sound. My boots made soft squeaks on the tile floor. The closer I got, the heavier the air felt, like the hallway was squeezing in around me. My skin prickled. I peeked around the corner. Nothing. Just empty desks and chairs stacked neatly, waiting for students to return in the morning. My stomach churned. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. I turned around, ready to go home. Then, tap, tap, tap. A sound so soft, like little feet on the floor. My breath hitched. My hands went cold. I spun around, my heart pounding. Nothing. The hallway stretched out, silent and empty. I should have left. I should have grabbed my keys and run. But instead, I stepped forward. My whole body screamed at me to stop, but I kept walking. Then, just as I reached the middle of the hall, every light went out. The hallway was swallowed by darkness. I gasped, my fingers fumbling for my flashlight. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. Finally, I clicked it on, the little beam cutting through the blackness. That's when I saw it, at the very end of the hallway. A small figure stood, just outside the reach of my flashlight. It was a child, or something shaped like one. It was only a shadow, but I could feel its eyes watching me, staring, waiting. My breath came fast, my chest tight with fear. "Who are you?" I whispered. The shadow didn't move. I stepped back. My foot slipped on the wet floor, making a loud squeak, and then it ran at me. My body froze. My heart stopped. The shadow child came fast, its black form gliding toward me without a sound, growing bigger, closer, until I screamed and shut my eyes. Silence. I waited. My whole body trembled. I forced my eyes open. The flashlight beam shook in my hand. The hallway was empty. No shadow, no child, just cold air pressing against my skin. I didn't wait another second. I turned and ran. My legs felt like jelly, but I didn't stop until I reached my car, my hands shaking so bad I could barely get the key in the ignition. I never worked another night shift alone after that. But sometimes, when I walk past that hallway during the day, I still feel those eyes watching me, waiting. It happened just a few weeks ago. I worked the night shift at the 24-hour Walmart in Chicago. It's not the worst job, but after a while it feels like the same night happens over and over. The same shelves, the same blinking lights, the same buzzing from above. I usually work in the electronics section. It's quiet there. No one rushes in at 3 a.m. to buy a phone charger or a speaker. Most of the time, it's just truckers and night owls, wandering around like ghosts. That's why I noticed him. At first, he was just another guy, probably waiting for someone. But then, he kept showing up. Every time I looked up, there he was, standing near the clearance rack, lingering by the TVs, too still, too silent. His eyes never moved from me. I told myself I was being silly, but my stomach felt twisted. The way he moved, it was like he wanted me to see him. But he never spoke, never blinked, never picked anything up, just stood there, watching. I reached for my radio to call someone. Dead. The battery was dead. Then, a hand grabbed my arm. I almost screamed. But before I could, a woman's voice rang out, bright and cheerful. "There you are, I've been looking all over for you." I turned and saw a woman I had never seen before. She smiled, her fingers gripping my arm hard, like we were old friends. Then she leaned in. Her smile didn't change, but her voice turned sharp. "That man is recording you. Follow me." My stomach dropped. My breath caught in my throat. I turned just a little, just enough to see him. He wasn't even pretending to shop anymore. He was just staring, holding up his phone. A cold wave of fear crawled up my spine. I let her pull me. I didn't even think, just moved. She talked fast and loud like we were two best friends catching up. I barely heard her words. My mind was spinning. My hands were shaking. Had he really been recording me? I wanted to look back. I needed to know if he was following us, but I was too scared. She kept pulling me through the store, fast. I barely noticed where we were going. Just away from him. But then, something felt wrong. I glanced back. He was gone. "We're safe now," I whispered. "We should get my manager." Her grip tightened. No, she said. "Just a little further." A shiver ran down my spine. "Let go," I said, twisting my arm. I said, "Let go." She didn't. She just smiled. But this time the smile was different. She yanked me forward, toward the back of the store. That's when I saw where we were. We had passed the registers, past the self-checkout, past all the aisles where people shopped. Ahead was the warehouse section. Diamond Soy's empty. Beyond that, the side exit, the door with no cameras. My heart stopped. I yanked my arm free and screamed. A sound so loud it split the quiet of the store. She lunged for me, but I ran. I ran as fast as I could, my legs burning. Behind me, her voice rang out, sharp and wrong. "Come back!" she shouted. Then she said my name. My name. But I had never told her my name. I didn't stop. I kept running until I saw my coworker, his eyes wide. "Call security!" I gasped. He did. But by the time they searched the store, she was gone. So was he. The cameras caught him. His face, clear as day. But her. Every frame. Her face was turned away, like she knew where the cameras were. The police called it a failed abduction. But the part that haunts me the most? She knew my name. They weren't just looking for anyone. They were looking for me. I used to work the night shift at a tiny gas station in Phoenix, right off a lonely stretch of desert highway. I say used to, because after what happened a few months ago, I will never work a night shift again. The gas station was small, barely busy once it got late. Most of my shift was spent restocking shelves, cleaning counters, and waiting for the occasional trucker or lost traveler to come in. It was just past 2 a.m. The highway was empty. Even the truckers had vanished. I had nothing to do. I scrolled through my phone, trying to kill time. Bored, I stepped outside for some air, rubbing my hands together against the cold. My breath fogged up in the chilly night. The parking lot was empty. The only things around were the gas pumps, the dark road, and the black stretch of desert beyond. The neon sign above flickered, buzzing faintly. A strange mist hung in the air, almost like the night was breathing. Then, I saw it. Something moved. I whipped my head around, heart pounding. A man stood behind one of the pumps. Where had he come from? He wore a dark red hoodie, hood up, hands deep in his pockets. But there was no car, no one else around. He wasn't fueling up, and he wasn't leaving. He just stood there, facing the store, watching me. A chill crept up my spine. Maybe he was waiting for someone? But something about him felt wrong. He shuffled in slow, lazy circles, like he was thinking, or hunting. I hurried inside but kept an eye on him through the glass. I prayed someone would pull into the station. Someone. Anyone. But no one came. Then, he moved. Slow at first. Then, fast. He burst through the door. I froze. He walked right up to the counter but didn't say anything. Just stared. His eyes scanned me, like he was studying me, like he was measuring something. Then, finally, he spoke. His voice was rushed, almost rehearsed. "Car broke down," he muttered. "Just before the pumps. Need a jump. Maybe gas." I felt my stomach drop. There was no car outside. His story was awful, like he wasn't even trying to make it believable. I forced a polite smile. "I can call a tow truck for you." "No!" he snapped. Too fast. Too sharp. He shook his head. "Just need a flashlight. Help me check under the hood." Everything inside me screamed that this was wrong. His words felt like a test, like he was waiting to see what I'd say. Maybe he was just weird, or on something? I hesitated. "Where's your car parked?" He pointed at the security monitor behind me. I turned, and my blood ran cold. There was a car there. I had just been outside. There had been nothing there before. I stared at the screen, heart hammering. Then, I saw it. A shadow moved near the back bumper. Someone was crouching behind the car. I forced a smile. "Sure," I said. "Let me grab my phone from the back office." I turned, moving slowly so I wouldn't spook him. Then, the second I was out of sight, I slammed the panic button. A deafening alarm screamed through the store. I braced myself for him to attack, but what he did instead was worse. He relaxed, his nervous energy disappeared. No more fake urgency, no more shifting from foot to foot. He smiled, not a panicked smile, not an embarrassed one. A slow, creeping grin, like he had all the time in the world. Like this was funny to him. I could only stare. Then, in one fluid motion, he turned and ran. I sprinted to the monitor just in time to see both of them disappear. Not toward the car, but into the desert. The car just sat there. Engine off, headlights off. No one inside. By the time the police arrived, the car was still there. But the men were gone. No footprints leading away. No sign of them. Anywhere. Then, one of the officers pointed something out. Something I hadn't noticed before. The front passenger door was open. There had been a third person inside. The whole time. The police took my statement, checked the security footage. That was that. Days later, they followed up. The car had been reported stolen, a week earlier, over 600 miles away. No one ever claimed it. No missing person reports. Just an abandoned vehicle, in the middle of nowhere. No explanation. That was months ago. Still nothing. I don't know why convenience stores are such popular targets, but I do know one thing. I will never work a night shift again. My name is Lily. I work the late shift at a little bar in the quiet part of New Orleans. The place is old, the lights are dim, and the jukebox plays the same old songs every night. The bar sits close to the highway, but there's a back door too. People come in from town, some from the road. It's mostly the same faces, truckers, tired workers, and sometimes lost tourists who just want a drink. I don't mind the job. It's quiet, easy. But the scary part? I have to work alone at night. One Tuesday, past midnight, a man walked in. He was tall, clean, and too fancy for a place like this. He wore a black trench coat, and when he moved, he did it so smoothly, like he was gliding. Something about him was strange. He walked up to the bar, sat down, and smiled at me. Not a normal smile. It was too perfect, like he had practiced it. "Do you like working here?" he asked. I shrugged. "It's fine." He nodded, watching me like he was studying me. Then he asked, "Do you ever think about doing something bigger?" His voice was low, smooth, like a whisper in the dark. The way he said it made my skin prickle. I forced a smile. "I'm happy here." Something in his face changed just for a second, like he was disappointed. Then, He pulled out a $100 bill, slid it across the bar, and walked out without another word. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. A week later, he came back, but this time, he wasn't alone. A woman walked in with him. She was too pretty, too perfect. Her smile was big, too big. Her clothes looked young, but she wasn't young. She moved like she was acting, like she was pretending to be normal. As soon as she sat down, she leaned in close. "You're so pretty," she said, her fingers brushing my arm. I laughed, but my stomach felt tight. The man sat quietly, watching, not talking, just watching. The woman kept smiling. "I run private parties," she whispered. "They pay big money. You'd be perfect. $10,000 for just one weekend." She leaned even closer. "Step outside for a second. Someone can explain it better." My heart thumped. I smiled, but my hands felt cold. "No thanks." Her smile flickered, just for a second. Then the bar door opened, and a group of people walked in, laughing. The woman's face changed. The fake friendliness slipped away. She glanced at the man. Then, without a word, they both got up and left. I thought it was over. It wasn't. A few nights later, I closed up late. As I walked to my car, I saw it. A black car, parked across the street, not moving. I tried to ignore it, but when I got in my car and started driving, it followed. Turn right. It followed. Turn left. It followed. My hands were sweating. My heart was pounding. Then I saw it. A police station up ahead. I swerved into the lot. The black car sped away. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. Days later, close to midnight, the bar was empty. I was wiping down the counter, thinking about closing early. Then, the door creaked open. It was her. She sat down at the bar, smiling. Too big, too fake. "Thought I'd check on you," she said, tilting her head. My stomach flipped. I grabbed my phone under the bar and texted my boss. "We're closing soon," I said. "You should leave." She made a little pouty face. "Just one drink?" I turned around to make it. My hands were shaking. Then I heard it. A soft click. The door had closed. I whipped around. She was gone. My stomach dropped. I ran to the front window. A black van parked outside. I locked the door as fast as I could. Then, bang, bang, bang. The back door. Someone was trying to get in. I grabbed a metal shaker, holding it like a weapon. My hands were shaking. I dialed 911. Then, headlights. A car pulled into the lot. My boss. The banging stopped. The van peeled out of the parking lot with a screech. When the cops arrived, we checked the security cameras. It was worse than I thought. 2 men had been crouching by the door, waiting. Another was in the back, pounding, trying to scare me into running out front. And the van? The license plate was fake. They were never caught. I still work at the bar, but I never work alone anymore. And I never stop thinking about it. What would have happened if I had run out that front door? My name is Timmy, and I work in a big, dark basement under the New York Public Library. It's an old place with long halls, big bookshelves, and creepy, creaky wooden floors. My job? I have to stay here late at night, making sure everything is locked up tight. No one else is supposed to be here after dark. No one. One night, just past midnight, I was sitting at my desk, staring at the glow of my computer screen. The basement was quiet. Too quiet. The only sound was the soft buzz of the lights above me. I liked the quiet. It made my job easy. But then, I heard it. Thump, thump, thump. Footsteps. Slow, heavy boots. Walking back and forth in the room behind me. I froze. There was no one else down here. I knew that. I had locked the only door when I came in. My hands started to shake. My breath got stuck in my throat. The footsteps kept going, back and forth, like someone was thinking, waiting. I turned slowly in my chair. The door to the storage room was shut. It was always shut, but now, I didn't trust it. Bam! Something slammed against the door from inside. I jumped. My heart was pounding. "Hello?" I called out. My voice echoed through the empty halls. No answer. The footsteps started again. Pacing, pacing, pacing. I grabbed my flashlight and stood up. My legs felt like jelly. I didn't want to go near that door. But I had to know. Who was in there? How did they get in? I reached for the handle. My fingers trembled. The door was locked, just like I left it. But the pacing boots kept moving, back and forth, right on the other side. "Who's there?" I shouted. The footsteps stopped. Silence. I pressed my ear to the wood. Nothing. Then, a scratch. A slow, long scratch against the door, like nails dragging down the wood. I stumbled backward. My flashlight shook in my hands. Run. My brain screamed at me. Get out. But my feet wouldn't move. I stood there, staring, waiting. And then, the door handle twisted. I ran. I sprinted up the stairs, my breath coming in short, choked gasps. I didn't stop until I reached the main floor. The security guard, Jim, looked up from his desk. "You okay? You look like you saw a ghost." I could barely talk. "Somebody's down there, in the basement, in the storage room." Jim frowned and grabbed his keys. "No one should be down there. Let's check it out." I did not want to go back, but I wasn't going alone. I followed Jim, my heart pounding in my ears. When we got to the basement, everything was quiet again. Too quiet. Jim unlocked the storage room. The door creaked open. Empty. The room was empty. No footprints. No people. Nothing. "You sure you heard something?" Jim asked, shining his light around. I nodded. I was sure. I heard it. The boots. The scratching. The handle turning. Then I saw it. 4 long scratch marks running down the inside of the door. Fresh. Deep. Like something had tried to claw its way out. "Let's go," Jim said, backing up. He locked the door tight. "You're not working down here alone anymore." I quit the next morning. But sometimes, I still hear the boots in my dreams. Pacing, waiting, wanting out.